that goes into us. 75% of our brain is made up of water. 83% of our blood is made up of water. 22% of our bones are made of water. 75% of our muscles are made of water. 73% of our being is made of water. We need to drink water, and to drink good water regularly. But good water is becoming a scarce commodity. The United Nations made a presentation that said that in the next few years, the way we are going, that water will soon be called the white gold. It will be more scarce than petrol and fuel. Today, the few water sources that we have available, what are we seeing? So many things come in from contaminated water right into our bodies. Here in Africa, we are still struggling. In Nigeria, we are also struggling with the issues of sanitation, with the issues of exposure to surface contamination. Even as we are seeing that defecation could be taking place in so many areas, and the water washes it down onto water sources. We see that in many countries today, there are laws that have been made. Legislation has been made concerning the use of certain kinds of fertilizers. Fertilizers that have dioxins, chromium, cadmium, arsenic, lead. That there are ways of administering these fertilizers to the soil so that water sources will be preserved and not contaminated. But here we have a country, and we are in a place where some of these legislations have not been put in place. Anybody buys any kind of fertilizer and administers it without supervision. Eventually, many of these things leach into drinking water sources, and these are potential cancer-causing heavy metals. We use pesticides on many of our crops, and eventually when the rain comes, it washes them off, and they also leach into water sources. We have factories around that use very dangerous chemicals as byproducts, or release chemicals as end products of production chains. And many of these, there are no legislation as to the ways of throwing these things off or taking them out of the society. So we find that many of them are just deposited within the canals. You go to Lagos, you find many of the factories, things flow within the canals, and they end up in potential drinking water sources. The water sources are contaminated with heavy metals that are carcinogenic. And yet these are things that we have accepted as modern lifestyles. So a woman somewhere will be fetching these waters, and though you try to use filter or some other things, there are metals that bypass some of these things. And by the way, some people actually drink them directly, living dangerously. Some will say, well, what this teacher is talking about has nothing to do with me. I am drinking directly from the tap. Well, thank God you're drinking from the tap, but where is the tap delivering it from? What is the conduit like? How pure is the water you're drinking? Some are drinking water from bored holes. But do you know that the holes that have been bored, that when you get water from it, you are actually not supposed to be drinking it without allowing the water go through a filtering system? Because if there is a sewage point that is some distance away from your borehole, the things that have been thrown into that place could actually leach and get down to the aquifer level and eventually get into the water that comes in from the borehole. It is not the sewage point close to you that puts you at risk. It is the one far from your borehole. Trash that could be burnt at some place could also leach and get to the water table, and they eventually get down to the borehole. Even within developed countries, the principle is that water from the borehole goes through a filtering system before it is taken directly. But I want to assure you, check out our society today in Nigeria and many other places. People are drinking directly, and we are absorbing metals that are highly carcinogenic. The pipes that are delivering the waters to our houses, even from the water board, many of the pipes are broken, many are cracked, many are being vandalized, and many are exposed to the air. Many times the waters are not regular, and when they eventually come, the pipe had been exposed to many of these things. You'll find some of the pipes actually go through parts of our society that are highly unhygienic. You'll find exposure to trash, exposure to sewage. You find pipe is being mixed with sludge, and eventually it is expected to deliver drinking water to our houses. How pure is the water we are drinking? So many of our pipes that we use to deliver water to us are made from lead. We have lead pipes, copper pipes, brass pipes, PVC pipes. Do you know that many of the metal pipes, whether it is lead, copper, iron, brass. What exactly are you drinking? Sometimes there are reactions within these pipes. Sometimes there are heavy deposits of metals, heavy deposits of iron 3 oxide, heavy deposits of copper, heavy deposits of lead within the pipes. And many times these things eventually get down into the body when we drink them directly. And we are seeing evidences, the symptoms of these poisonings in many areas. They keep accumulating and they wait until the latter stages of our lives when they begin to prove fatal, living dangerously. Today, the option for many is to go to the plastic pipes. The plastic pipes are neater, they are cheaper, and they are actually easier to handle. But they also have a law. The plastic pipes are made of PVC, polyvinyl chloride. And polyvinyl chloride has a law. Once it is exposed to high temperature, it releases particles of polyvinyl chloride, which eventually could contaminate anything that goes through it and constitute a source of cancer even to our bodies. So if your plastic pipes are conducting cold water, good and fine. But today we have many drinking water packages, we have the bottled water, and we have so much plastic in our homes for toys and for things that our children are holding. Many of these eventually wear out and particles are mixing with the air and even with the water that we drink. Do you know that it's a common practice for many supermarkets and shops that once drinking water, what we call pure water or sachet water or bottled water, is delivered onto many of the shops, they are left outside under the sun. When these plastics are heated, what you are drinking is no longer pure water, you are drinking PVC water, because under a high temperature the plastic releases polyvinyl chloride into the water, which is highly carcinogenic. If you want to know the effect of the sun on plastic, you could leave a CD container even in your car and leave it under the hot sun. You will find that many times by the time you get back to your car, plastics that you left in the car have melted. That tells you what happens even to those that have been exposed to the sun for some time. Today, it is a modern way of life. A modern way of life to drink from this without caution. In those days, even when we make our bean cake or moi moi or any of these things, delicacies that we have been known for in Africa and in Nigeria, many of these things were cooked in banana leaves and some other particular leaves that will even add some certain flavors onto them. These are the best ways of cooking. Today, we've used nylon, we've used things that we pour these things in and we subject them to high temperatures. We don't even know the sources of some of the things. Some of them have not gone through the International Standard Organization check. Some of them are not supposed to be used under high temperature. Some of them are not supposed to be used in a microwave, because eventually under high temperature they release these chemicals into the same substances we are going to eat or ingest, and eventually they remain in our bodies and they are prone to cause cancer. There are plastic particles that are large enough to be deposited within the alimentary canal, within the nasal cavities, and these ones have been able to cause irritation and cause some damage. The smaller ones get into the lungs. The much more smaller ones pass through the alveolus, and some even get through the blood vessel. And somebody will say, well, when they get there, the kidney should be able to just remove them from the body. I want you to know that many are not removed in the body. They are sedimented, they stay there. And you can see the danger of this when you look at the chart of how long it takes for things to decompose normally. Do you know it takes 2 to 10 days for a banana peel to decompose? Sugarcane waste could take 1 to 2 months. Paper bags, 2 to 5 months. Cotton, 1 to 5 months. Orange peel, up to 14 months. Thread and other things, up to 14 months. Milk cartons, the same ones we use for our juice, our fruit juice, those ones could take up to 5 years. Cigarette takes up to 12 years to decompose. Nylon and leather could take 30 to 40 years to decompose. Aluminium cans, 80 to 100 years. Diapers, pampers, pad, 500 to 800 years to decompose. Plastic bags, 15 to 1,000 years. Glass bottles could also wear out. Those ones are nearly impossible. The one that has the least tendency of decomposing is plastic. This could last up to 1,000,000 years. If you bury a plastic bottle in the ground, if you can come back after 1,000,000 years, if Jesus wants to tarry, you will still meet your plastic bottle there. Now, if the plastic bottle has particles that have gone into your body, they stay there and they are not decomposed, and they constitute an irritation that could also be carcinogenic, living dangerously. It is a modern thing now to use the energy saving bulbs, and we have them all around. It's been imported now in a huge quantity in our country, Nigeria. And you find, yes, they ease on the pressure on our generating sets and our electricity sources because they consume less. But what do you know again about this? The manufacturers said all CFL, compact fluorescent lamp bulbs, emit mercury when broken. Why? Because they have mercury lined up inside. The bulbs cannot work without mercury. So there's mercury in them. Now, what is the danger? That when this bulb is broken, anywhere the bulb is broken, the manufacturers say any room where this kind of bulb gets broken, people should leave the room and air it for at least 15 minutes. Because anybody that approaches this bulb immediately is exposing himself to mercury vapor. And an accumulation of mercury vapor in the body is very, very toxic and very, very dangerous. That is why the manufacturers have also said that none of these kind of bulbs should be thrown into a trash can. There are ways, there are legislation for disposing them. Incidentally, we are not seeing it here. The legislation is that it should be returned to the factories. They have the plants, the recovery plants that reclaim mercury from the bulbs. But today, the bulbs are disposed indiscriminately. Eventually, their broken rain washes mercury into the soil. Sometimes they are broken in our homes. Sometimes our children play and break them around, and they expose themselves to the vapor of mercury. Do you know that the factories making them say it, even when you clear up the broken bulbs with a piece of rag, they say that piece of rag should be disposed, and that you should wear gloves to dispose a broken energy saving bulb. Is this going on today? So much mercury is being deposited by the places where these bulbs are thrown in trash centers, and eventually they leach their way into the soil, get into plants, and eventually come back into our bodies through the things that we eat. So we are living in a very dangerous time. What does mercury do? Mercury can be easily ingested by breathing the vapor and by swallowing or getting the liquid metal on your skin, and this can lead to so many diseases, so many situations, and eventually onto cancer. They can also lead even to distortion, even within children that are birthed, and to tissue laceration and many other things. Some of us, our water sources are from the rain that is harvested from our roofs. It is okay to harvest water from the roof if the roof is clean, if the roof is okay. But when you look at most of our houses within even the urban areas and the village areas where we do much of water harvesting, how are the roofs? When you see brown roofs like this in Ibadan, these are not painted, and it is not just Ibadan, it's all over. This browning that you are seeing is actually this. It's a rusting of the roof. When you collect water from this, what exactly have you collected? And eventually, if you drink that kind of water, what have you put in your body? Heavy metals that also are carcinogenic and could also expose us to needless risk. We are talking about living dangerously. Today, when it comes to cosmetology, looking good is good business, and some people live to make people look good. But at what expense? And we are seeing that when it comes to aesthetics, that there are so many things that have become a lifestyle of the modern world that expose us to danger. If we talk about the ones that people may feel cannot be avoided, we use insecticides in the house, and eventually we still come back and stay within. Some of us use some dangerous chemicals to kill insects, or tapiapia, and many other such things that are common names around. These are heavy chemicals, dichloroethane. And these eventually, once they are breathed in and they go into the lungs, these are things that are carcinogenic. People go and buy these things without taking note of whatever chemicals or ingredients have been used in it. We spray around and we also expose family to them. No wonder they said our lifestyles in the last days are exposing us to cancer now more than before. You'll find that when it comes to cosmetology, so many of the cosmetics have chemicals that are prone to cancer. For instance, shampoo has an average of 15 chemicals that are carcinogenic. Eyeshadow has 26. Lipstick has 33. Blush has 16. Fake tan has 22. Deodorant could have up to 15. Body lotion could have up to 32 chemicals that are toxic and are also carcinogenic. 95% of chemicals used in fragrances are synthetic compounds derived from petroleum. They include benzene derivatives, aldehydes, and many other known toxics and sensitizers capable of causing cancer and birth defects. Many neurotoxins are being released. Chloroform is being used in fabric softeners. Air room fresheners today contain p-dichlorobenzene, a highly carcinogenic chemical, and ethanol, and many others that you could find today. The air fresheners that we spray all around, and many of them have fragrances: lemon fragrance, orange fragrance, apple fragrance. Did you actually think that you were inhaling apple or you were swallowing apple? No, it was a chemical. 95% of chemicals used in fragrances are synthetic compounds derived from petroleum, and many of these can actually cause disorders. For instance, fibris. This one alone is having 80 known toxic chemicals, including genotoxins, bronchoconstrictors, neurotoxins, reproductive toxins, hepatotoxins, and mutagenic toxins that could cause mutation within the cells. And yet, these are popular air fresheners that are used in our cars and in our homes. We are living dangerously. Sometimes we get our houses painted and immediately we move in. Do you know that even after painting your house, we are supposed to leave it to air for a day or two, totally uninhabited? But sometimes we move in immediately. And many of the paints that are used today are having volatile organic compounds. And these volatile organic compounds in a vapor form are inhaled. Even the thinner that the painters use to mix the paint is highly carcinogenic and is being inhaled by the painter and by those who are living in a painted apartment, and we're exposing ourselves to needless risks. How about other cosmetics? People want to rub different kinds of creams because they want the skin to look smooth and to look good, and many have gotten rashes, many have gotten skin blotches and skin cancer, even from the creams that they rubbed. Today, the issue of bleaching and the issue of lightening of the skin is becoming a societal norm. It is a modern way of life. It has become a flair for celebrities. When the skin is bleached or lightened, it is actually a scraping of the melanin. And the melanin is that which the Lord has put on our skins in order to help absorb the harmful effect of ultraviolet rays and prevent us having skin cancer. When we scrape them, we actually expose ourselves to skin cancer. There are some of the creams that contain mercury, and they actually burn the skin outrightly, even with the obvious reports from all over the world that the ozone layer is being depleted by many of the CFC gases that we are releasing in the air from modern factories, from vehicles, and from refrigeration, and so many other things. You can see here the ozone situation between 1970 and 2008. The blue area you are seeing is showing you that we are having an ozone level that is less than 100. So it means that ultraviolet rays are actually coming into our atmosphere and they're hitting the skin. And what a time we are now choosing to scrape the skin and to try to lighten ourselves at a great expense and expose ourselves to skin cancer. It's a modern thing now that you find among men to get sex-enhancing drugs. And you find many locals selling these things as roots that could be chewed, as things that could be mixed with alcohol and swallowed, as things that are already prepared. And many of these things are actually increasing the heart rate and eventually exposing us to cardiovascular diseases. Apart from that, many of them also may contain things that have not been regulated by our Food and Drug Law Enforcement agencies and could be carcinogenic. But one particularly, and that is Viagra, which is becoming a very popular thing among men and women who want enhanced sexual performance. And these are eventually increasing the risk of melanoma, which has to do with the skin as a side reaction from Viagra. These are other skin lighteners. things that people eventually buy as tubes and they mix with their cream and they eventually rub them all around. These particular ones that have been gotten from these companies and the different countries that are making them have been found to be carcinogenic. You can see Top Gel, which is one of the most prominently used ones here in Nigeria, but it is carcinogenic. And the country that is making it, that is Taiwan, has listed out the chemicals inside under pressure from the International Standard Organization. And today we know that these things are carcinogenic. How about the deodorants? The deodorants that are being used, many contain aluminium, propylene glycol, triclosan, parabens, and tartals, especially parabens. All these that have been listed are things that are carcinogenic, and you can see the different parts of the body that they affect. But incidentally, these are common things that are being used. The parabens, for instance, have been linked directly to breast cancer among women. Most times, women shave their armpits. When they do so, they lighten the skin. Sometimes, they even break the skin because there are injuries. Then they take some of these deodorants and they rub them right there. Immediately, they grant access to the parabens to move quickly towards the breast through the lymph nodules. Now, you need to know that 99% of all breast cancer tissues that have been found among women contained traces of parabens. And the parabens come mainly from the deodorants. Another source of parabens is lipstick, which we are going to talk about. You also find among the men the shampoo and the things we are using for shaving. Check the content. When you moisten the skin of the chin, you make the pores to be open. And eventually, when you rub things on the skin that are carcinogenic, they go in through the pores. Things that you rub on your skin can actually get into you. Does it mean that all deodorants, all anti-shaves, all creams are bad and they are carcinogenic? No, except for those that clearly indicate that they are using natural sources, natural things. But where there are organic chemicals, there are high risk that you are actually exposing yourself to carcinogenic things. Look at the top 10 toxic chemicals to avoid in cosmetics: BHA, BHT, D and C color additives, eugenol, formaldehyde, nitrosamines, phenylenediamine, parabens, tartals, trinanolamine, and many of these chemicals that you are seeing. These are things that have been proven to be carcinogenic. Do you know within the lipsticks that many women are used to putting on that there are parabens? Many commercial brands of lipsticks contain BHA and BHT, which have been shown to increase risk of liver cancer. They mimic estrogen, they promote tumors, they prevent impression of male hormones and impair blood clotting among users. Some of them actually contain lead, which is highly carcinogenic. And do you know, among many of the lipsticks that have been tested, most have methylparaben and they have acetate and propyl paraben. The paraben family of these chemicals are carcinogenic. Somebody will say, well, but I didn't consume the lipstick. But are you saying that in one way or the other, the lipstick content didn't eventually get absorbed in your mouth? Sometimes unconsciously you licked your lips. I ask, the reddening of your lips, is it worth taking the risk of cancer-causing chemicals? What goes on your body goes into your body. And you need to know they actually get there. Another thing again for beauty industry is the hair. The hair of the woman is very important to her. But have you checked the things that are being used on the hair? What chemicals have you put on your hair? Toxic chemicals have been linked to the coloring of the hair. Artificial colors are highly carcinogenic. And they are things that could actually create a lot of disruption even for you. But today, many girls want to wear hairs that are colored, so many colors. Then you also have the hairspray. You've gone into a salon. A woman that knows what she's doing in the salon, or the salon attendant, when they want to spray your hair, they ought to cover your face, cover your nose, and actually cover everywhere so that you don't inhale what is being sprayed. But many times, they are being sprayed without cover. Even when they are covered, they are still in the air in that room. Even when you spray in the house, even when you spray on the hair, somehow aren't these things getting into your lungs? Many companies, like this particular one, had declared that there are 8 toxic chemicals within this particular hairspray. Different companies have been put under pressure by the International Standard Organization to declare their content. And you need to know that in some of our countries, where the corruption level has made it such that manufacturing companies could evade declaration of their contents, that you could actually be using a product where the dangerous contents are under-declared. You are using things that are highly dangerous. They can burn the skin and they're exposing you to cancer. Here you have some of the particular products. Nail polish has dibutyl tethyl. And you find nail hardener and the chemicals it contains, artificial nails. You find the nail cleansers, the disinfectants, the cleansers, and different things that are being used by the people that are doing all the manicure and the pedicure. So many chemicals as have been shown here, and the things they could cause after a potential long-term exposure. Even when artificial nails are used, the glue and the chemical that is needed to fix the nails is not supposed to be inhaled. These are things that have high potential for cancer. Nail polish that is being used has toxins. Many of them have toxins, except where otherwise stated, that could also lead to cancer. Research brought out to many women and asked women if they knew that their nail polish was toxic. And many of the women wrote, "I don't know and I don't care." But I want you to know that only the dead don't care. God made us to care. Why? Because your body is the temple of the living God. Women want their eyes to look bright and sexy, as they say. So now they are using artificial lens to put in their eyes. Lens that have been designed to give different colors, blue, green, amethyst, different designs, the sexy designs, different animal designs, all, and they fix these things in their eyes. In fixing some of these things, they scratch the cornea. In fixing some of these things, they use things that could also expose you to this kind of danger. And I ask, do you need to go this far to look good? Many medical doctors and eye doctors are stating that there are higher levels now of eye cancer, higher levels now of destroyed cornea by the use of these things. How about mascara? These particular companies, their mascara has been brought out and has been declared that they are directly carcinogenic. Neutrogena, Alma, Revlon, L'Oreal, CoverGirl, Maybelline, all these are eye mascara, and the content of them are carcinogenic. Do you know how to avoid toxic mascara? Avoid mascara that have mineral oil, petroleum, formaldehyde, dyes, parabens, animal products, chemical fragrances, waxes, and acetone. If you must use a mascara, if they have this, then you are also exposing yourself to needless risk, living dangerously. How about our toothpastes? That there are toothpastes that also contain chemicals that actually affect your liver. Check out the content of your toothpaste and find out how natural the natural toothpaste is that you are using. The dentists have also linked them that toothpaste that may contain propylene glycol, parabens, sodium lauryl, polyethylene glycol, and triclosan. These are things that must be avoided. And today we have some toothpaste companies that have reported under investigation. They have reported that they have toothpaste that contain formaldehyde, detergent, seaweed, peppermint oil, paraffin, glycerin glycol, chalk, titanium dioxide, saccharin, and menthol. Check your toothpaste. If they contain this, we are exposing ourselves to a needless risk. We are in the last days, and these are lifestyles. Women want to look good, and one of the things is to wear the high-heeled shoes. It makes you look good, okay, but you need to know, what have you done to yourself? You've put pressure on yourself. You are actually standing on your toes. If God wanted you to have high-heeled legs like that, He could have made you like that if He wanted. Do you know that there is a long-term danger? Though not related to cancer, but nevertheless, long-term danger that could stop you from finishing your assignment here on earth. That when you expose yourself and you use very high-heeled shoes, you change the natural posture of your body. You distort the shape of your cerebral column. You change the way God made your body to stand when you want to stand on high-heeled shoes. And you put pressure on certain parts of your cerebral column that could eventually, in the long run, put you at risk. You put danger to your knees, to the patella. You put danger to your calf. Your muscle is strained. The Achilles tendon is strained. You put injuries on your ankles and eventually even on your toes. Do you know that when you wear a shoe that has 1 inch heel, you put 22% pressure on your toes? When you wear a shoe that has 2 inches high heel, then you have put a pressure of 57% on yourself. If you wear a shoe that has 3 inches heel, then you have actually put 76% pressure on yourself. Now imagine using that kind of shoe 10 years, 15 years. Then you have already registered yourself to perpetual backache. Eventually, when you want to retire in life, you find that you are retiring in pain. Needless risk. It is a common practice in Africa that when a woman delivers, that they also get some things in order to tie up the tummy, in order to reduce the loosening of the tummy, to bring the woman back to shape. It is something that is done after childbirth. It was not meant to be a lifestyle. But the modern world, from the Western world, has brought the issue of waist training. And many women want to look good, and they're looking for artificial ways to constrict the waist. And when you find somebody that is able to do that, they say, oh, she's looking good. She has the figure 8. What exactly has she done? Look at a woman, seeing the picture on the right. See how the organs in the body are distended, how they are positioned normally, how they take their allowances. Then you use all the things that are used to constrict the waist. Eventually you can see it on the left side. What has been done? The lungs have been pushed to an upper position, and then the intestines and other things have been pushed downwards. Look at it eventually very clearly again, that when that is done and you think the woman is looking good, even as you are seeing here, what she has done to herself is that the rib has been bent most to an angle. The lungs have been contracted. Then the liver, the stomach, and the intestines are forced down, and they crowd into the womb seriously. What does it do to this woman? Because they are crowded to the womb, it reduces the tendency for fertilization. It makes it more difficult to conceive. It increases the risk for miscarriage because the womb area is crowded. The chest area is also constricted, and the lung is tightened. The woman is having short breaths. The lower part of the lung is not used, so fluid could deposit in that area, making such women to always be having coughs, to always be coughing out fluids within that area. Especially in the long run, you could actually be damaging your lungs. But it has become a lifestyle, and many women will do anything for this, living dangerously. Look at the World Trade Center that was destroyed, the 9/11 issue. If you had a way to have warned the world about this, wouldn't you have done it? More than 4,000 people died. People jumped to their deaths from the building. But today, we have something that is smoking higher than the World Trade Center, and many people are not saying so much about it. And what is that? Smoking. Do you know that 90% of tobaccos in the US are being genetically modified, and there are chemicals of death in the cigarettes? Now, these are areas that have very functional standard organizations. Then what do we say about us? Do you know that the Surgeon General of the United States brought out the warning that in every stick of cigarette, you are actually having more than 7,000 chemicals in each stick of cigarette. And among these 7,000 chemicals, 70 of them, at least 70 of them, are carcinogenic. You have cancer-causing chemicals, toxic metals, poisonous gases, all in cigarette. That every cigarette smoker is actually heading to an unavoidable appointment with larynx cancer, oral cancer, lung cancer, peptic cancer, pancreas cancer, bladder cancer, esophagus cancer. And I ask, is it worth the risk? Picking a stick of cigarette, is it worth the risk? Hear what Ronaldo Martinez said. He said, "Smoking gave me throat cancer at 39. Now I breathe through a hole in my throat, and I need this machine to speak. Oh, what a regret." If he could rewind his life, he would have avoided it. It has truncated his career. It has stopped him from performing. And I'm asking today, why expose ourselves to the needless risk? Today, with our modernizing world, we have so many things that are emitting dangerous radiations. From our power lines, our TV sets, our radio sets, our telephones, our microwave, and so many other things, even to the medical machines like the scanning machines and the x-ray, harmful rays are being released. But many of these things have come to societal lifestyle levels. Many of us use our mobile phones. Did you know that each time your mobile phone is answering a call or making a call, it is emitting harmful radiations? And that these radiations are not good when there is a long-term exposure. For an adult, the thickness of the skull actually prevents some of these radiations from harming our brain, which is tender. But how about children? So research has said that children absorb more energy than adults from the same phone, and it can lead to tumors in the midbrain, which are more deadly than tumors in the temporal lobe because of the way the phones are being used. Children's cells are reproducing more quickly than adults, and children who begin to answer phones with the mobile phone from age 5 onwards are exposing themselves to a great risk of brain tumors later in life. Another very risky behavior, even among women, that is very dangerous is that ladies sometimes hide their cell phones in their bra and in their breasts. And when this happens, you are actually exposing the cells of the breast directly to the harmful rays from the phone, thereby exposing yourself to cancer. The Environmental Health Trust says that breast cancers are occurring in women more who stored cell phones in their bras. What a needless